Okay, we're rolling, right?
Yeah.
Normally I'd look at her and be like, ready, kid? So we're going to be doing this one a little bit differently. Josh, we're here in Montana with you. So everybody that's watching, we got a little bit of a different backdrop in studio. We got the pleasure of coming up and meeting you with this incredible journey you are on of Montana Knife Company, which I'll be honest, I don't know shit about you, but I've watched this whole entire time. I've watched from you starting in your home, and I'm one of those guys. I love to watch people's success from the outside, right? Not being in it and knowing and be like, oh, that's my boy. But I've watched from almost nothing to, I think what really turned me on in the not early days, but where you put out a video a while ago where it was like a must be nice video. Yeah. And that's where I was like, okay, I get it, because nobody sees the early days of grinding out in your garage to the transition to your barn, to the this building we're now, to now just launching a absolutely massive facility, 50,000 square foot-ish, right? Where you're employing hundreds of employees here in Missoula, Montana, which is probably not the most booming town out of the state. And so you see this internet trolls or whatever, it must be nice with a $300 knife. Right. And as somebody that's an entrepreneur, and obviously we've started businesses with our kids and everything that we've done over the years, that is one of those like key irks for me. And I saw you do this video on how you kind of just showed, I mean, I think you had employees on your porch. Yeah. That your accountants were out there, and I was like, man, this is a guy I want to talk to, because you have done it all. And we just finished up a whole tour of your facility, and I've toured a lot of facilities. I've been to a lot of places. I've been in the SIG headquarters. I've been, got to do a lot of really cool things over the years. I am really impressed by you.
Oh, thank you.
And just the way that your mind works. We got in the car, and she's like, Dad, he would say this, and that's what you would say, and that's how you would. And so that's why I had certain questions when we were just on the floor, because from start to finish of something, it takes so much to be able to, one, execute a product, but not just in that way, but to be able to have your employees be able to flow in the systems and the processes, and talking to your employees that this guy's trying to now cut off a second off of where the machine goes from this piece to this piece, and over time, and he's explaining over a year, I mean, that could add up to millions of dollars, because in a second here and there turns into thousands of seconds, which time is money in your world. So let's get into this, dude. I know you probably have no idea about the Wild Chaos podcast, but we just have real, raw, interesting conversations. And the reason that we wanted to come here today is because I've listened to a few of your shows, and I've followed you for a long time, and I've never really heard anybody talk about who you are. Sure. And the depths of you and your business. It's always, tell me about this knife, and tell me about this, and what's the process of this. So I want to kind of get in so the world can know who you are, from being a lineman, which I was in the utility world for a while. I worked for some big companies out on the West Coast. So I want to touch on those days, and then obviously into evolving to what we are here and doing now. So as in true fashion, man, who are you and where the hell are you from?
Well, I don't feel like I'm that interesting, but as it turns out, it's been a pretty cool story and a cool path. But
absolutely,
I think the coolest thing about what we have done is, and I think you'll hear it from my stories, I'm just a regular guy. Like, I think a lot of times you see these big brands, and MKC's becoming a pretty good sized brand in the industry. And I even talked to a guy yesterday that was like, I just thought it was like a marketing thing, like a Yeti type company, and was owned by one of the conglomerates. He didn't realize that, like, where it kind of started. Yep. And so, I grew up hour and a half or so east of here, up in the mountains in Lincoln, Montana. Okay. It's a really small little logging town. My parents had an excavation business, so grew up operating backhoes and excavators with my dad, and dump trucks and stuff. I had a lawn mowing business when I was a kid, worked for my dad, obviously doing that. It was a real seasonal summer thing. So in the summer I was working with him. But I was playing Little League Baseball. My Little League Baseball coach, Rick Dunkerley, would bring knives to practice and show the dads that he was making. And he was an outfitter in the Bob Marshall and worked on a ranch and whatnot, was coaching us, and would just show some of the dads the hunting knives he was making. And he was kind of starting out at that point himself. And I was super interested in it and asking him 100 questions. And I don't really know why, but he did this. But, my parents bought one of his knives for me for Christmas that year, and then he invited me up to a shop right after Christmas during break to make a knife. I don't know why he invited me exactly or of all the kids, but he did. And I made a knife, and then that spring kind of kept pestering him to come up there. And I remember I'd call him on the phone and ask him questions. And I made a couple more knives with him that spring. And then I think probably his way of getting rid of me was telling me if I wanted to be a knife maker, I had to have my own shop.
Okay.
And so
hint, like time to get out, kid.
Time to get out.
I got work to do.
And so I had a little bit of money from mowing lawns, working for my dad. So I bought a $250 belt grinder, and I put it in my dad's shop, and pretty quickly started making a real mess. My dad's pretty meticulous. I was making a mess of his shop, grinding dust.
That's where it comes from. That's the word, I guess I don't mean to interrupt you, is today everything in your 50,000 square foot facility, meticulous. Everything has a spot, a place, a position, a role. Somebody has mastered or mastering since you were growing.
Yep.
So I wonder if you picked a lot of that up from your dad.
Yeah, he's very, very, like every weekend pressure washing equipment, greasing it. Like you grease a grease zerk and then you wipe the grease zerk off. Yep. That kind of stuff for sure. And so he kind of booted me out of his shop, and he helped me. We had a little sawmill, and we cut our own timber or whatever from our property, and we enclosed a 10x10 lean-to in a shop. And he said, "That's your shop." And so I moved my grinder out there and started making knives in this little uninsulated spot. And I was working on knives before and after school, and would keep asking Rick questions when I'd see him, and go up to his shop and ask him some things. But I was doing it all at my house, at my parents' house, and got pretty serious about it. And I guess it was when I was 15 years old, I went and tested for the journeyman test. And ended up becoming the youngest journeyman
at 15
knife maker in the world. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yep. And that test is a pretty cool test. You have to join the American Bladesmith Society and be an apprentice for, at that time it was 2 years. Now you have to be an apprentice for 3 years. And then you're eligible to test. And you have to you have to make a you have to make a 10-inch blade, and it has to be able to chop a 1-inch rope in half in one chop, which just shows sharpness. Mm-hmm. Then you have to chop, without resharpening, you have to chop 2 2x4s in half, as many chops as you want. And when you're done with that, without sharpening, it has to still be able to shave hair off your arm. And then you have to bend that blade 90 degrees in a vise without breaking it. And that shows that you have control over the heat treat process, steel selection, all that. And then you take 5 knives and you present them to a panel of judges at the Atlanta Blade Show once a year. You can go down there and you present them to Master Smith judges, and they judge the fit and finish and whatnot of the knives. So I did all that, and I passed that when I was 15. And then I stayed real serious about it through high school, traveling to shows. And this was all pre-internet. Today, you can learn how to make knives off of YouTube and not go anywhere.
For sure.
Back then, you had to go to guys' shops.
Are there other kids, young adults doing this? I feel like, especially back then, you're 15 years old. Is this an old man's game? Do you come walking in? Are you one of the young bucks in there, or the only one?
Oh, yeah. They called me Psycho Knife Boy. Yeah. And I was,
there
was really no one else young when I was, or that I was around. There was one other young guy, relatively young guy that was just a little older than me, that was kind of did similar things, just a little bit behind me as far as age-wise. But Jason Knight, still a really great knife maker today. I think there's a lot more young guys today.
Oh, for sure.
With YouTube and Forged in Fire.
All the shows and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, like information today is so accessible. You can learn how to podcast. You can learn how to make knives. You can learn how to do anything on the internet and not go anywhere. Back then, and I think it was one of my qualities, is I wasn't afraid to walk up to a 60-year-old guy and be like, can you tell me how you did that? And to the credit of the knife community, rarely did I ever get like, beat it, kid.
Yeah.
Get out of here. To the credit of the knife community, they were very sharing and really took a liking to me. They were also, those guys were very hard on me. It took me, I think, till I was like 23 years old before I handed a knife to some of my mentors, and they were like, "That's a damn nice knife." Like, it was always like, this could be better, that could be better. And at times it was frustrating as a kid.
You thought you nailed it.
Yeah, you do. It's like best knife I've ever made. And they're like, yeah, it could be better.
And then they start pointing out things. You're like, oh, okay, I see it now.
And what I didn't realize, and this is just pure luck, the guys that I started learning from, Rick, and then several guys around Montana, were all kind of in the beginning of their careers, and little did I know they weren't going to just be the hobby knife maker in their lean-to. Like, while I was chasing them, trying to get as good as them, they were also learning, and all of them ended up ascending to like some of the top knife makers in the world. Rick still today is one of the top knife makers in the world. And so it was a moving target. Like, I'm chasing this finish line that I perceive, and the finish line like just stayed that far away, or sometimes it felt like farther away.
Which is only
was awesome.
doing it. All that's doing is just bettering you to get close, to keep chasing it. You're not, because if you catch the finish line, I mean, okay, cool. Then what? Especially at that age.
Yeah, there's a bunch of knife makers that I was around at shows that I bypassed fast.
Yeah,
that they weren't like striving for, being so much better, and they actually, there was a nickname for this particular group of like 4 gentlemen in Montana at that time in the 90s, and they would get together a couple times a year, and we would have these hammer-ins, they called them, and like those 4 guys would drive, like getting like 20 or 30 guys together and just like forge together. So like, you saw my forging shop down here. Imagine 3 straight days, 20 or 30 guys in there, 50 guys, and taking turns like welding up billets and then going in the forge and forging and trying like new techniques, and just forging from like 10 a.m. until 2 a.m., just nonstop, and sharing ideas and like driving each other. And they were also like competing with each other. Like, you go to the next, unlike the internet today, you wouldn't see what a guy in Colstrip, Montana is working on until you showed up to the blade show.
Okay, yeah.
And we would all get together in the hotel rooms. Like Thursday night, we fly in, get together in somebody's hotel room, and start breaking out the knives that everybody brought and showing each other.
Okay.
And, Wade is like bringing out this knife that's just unbelievable. And then Rick's like, check out what, and they all kind of have their own styles, right? And it's like, how the hell did you do that? And like, look at that. And so feeding off of each other and competing, but also like telling each other how they did stuff. So they nicknamed those 4 guys specifically, the editor of Blade Magazine nicknamed them the Montana Mafia. And they were just like this group of guys that were just, every show they were light years better than last time, and they were pushing each other. And I'm the kid just running like crazy trying to keep up with them.
And do you think a lot of that because they would come together and share, and they're always just bettering each other's knowledge at that point, back then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it was just such a cool atmosphere.
When are you going to bring that back?
It's interesting. That's why I set this up kind of the way I did down here, is I want to start having hammer-ins again here, because I actually did host hammer-ins for years in my other shop right over here.
Okay.
And it's been a lot of years, and a lot of guys really want me to do it again. And now I'm lucky now with this building, I have the space to really host a cool event.
Well, especially if you could bring in some young kids too, and just almost do, here's the next generation of guys like, hey, I was you.
Yeah, we've talked about having like, hey, if I fly in a couple knife makers and we have, father-son, or bring your daughter or whatever, and say, hey, we're gonna host. We can have up to 50 people here, so 25 father-sons, father-daughters, whatever, a couple brothers, and like have people come in and like learn.
That'd be a blast.
And knife makers love to teach, and it's just a very open community. Unlike some certain other communities, that's a lot more guarded, and like, because like if you're a knife maker and I am, and we go to a show, like technically you're setting up your table, I'm setting up mine. It's kind of typical like trade show setup, big long lines of tables, and like we're competitors. But it never felt that way, because like these knife collectors would buy one of your knives and buy one of mine, because we have 2 totally different styles. Like you look, and it's an art form, right? You look at an artist, a painter.
Yep.
One painter has a completely different style than another. Some collectors just really love his stuff, and they don't love mine, or they might love both and buy them for different reasons. So it was just a really neat atmosphere. And it was kind of the unfortunate part of the internet, because also back then, collectors had to go to shows to get their favorite knife maker's knife.
Yep.
And with that, you ended up developing a really neat friendship relationship with your collectors.
Oh, okay.
And like I would be in high school, and I would fly to New York City. We had a show in Times Square in the Crowne Plaza Hotel, and you have investment bankers and lawyers and doctors and business owners and the guy that owns some huge construction company, and this cool, weird conglomerate of like different personalities and people. And then we would hang out in like the hotel lobby bar, till 2 a.m. with our knife collectors. And at the end of the day, they're buying your knife really because they like you, not as much just because of the knife.
For sure.
There's a lot of great knives in that show, but for some reason, this guy connects with him, right?
Well, it could have been that 5 minutes at your booth where you guys share a story, and then he's like, "Oh man, you're from Montana. Oh, my parents grew up in Montana." Whatever.
That happened 100 times, right? Or like, I've
Absolutely.
always wanted to go out there go elk hunting.
Come on out.
Like, oh,
And
you're
then-
a hunter? Yeah, exactly. And Rick, being an outfitter, he would be like, well, come on out, let's go. And he would take collectors fishing or hunting or.
And then you got a friend and a customer for life.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that happened where still to this day, collectors, I'll have some collectors that'll come to the grand opening that'll be like, and it's unfortunate because like a lot of that was 20, 30 years ago. Some of those guys are getting older and passing away and whatnot that I knew back then.
Yeah.
And you always, as a knife maker, you maybe didn't make a lot of money and, a struggling art form, but like you always had a cool collector in some place that you might want to go visit.
Okay.
Like, oh, come down to San Diego and go out on my boat and I'll take you fishing or, come out to New York. I've got an apartment out there and we'll hang out. And so as a knife maker, you could really have neat experiences that you probably couldn't normally afford on your own.
Okay.
But you ran in this interesting, cool circle of people. So
Just made up of anybody from ranchers to probably billionaire business owners.
Totally random. And that's when I also learned really early in life that you never judge a book by its cover when they walk up to your table. For sure. I've had guys that looked half homeless sit there and talk to me for an hour, and then my knives would be $2,000 or $3,000 a piece, and finally a guy'd be like, "I'll take these 3," and he opens up his bag and it's just full of cash. Mm-hmm. It's like, what the hell just happened, right?
I have a buddy like that. He's worth like $900 million, and he dresses. I'm talking like a bum.
Yep.
Bum Crocs with socks, like basketball shorts,
Yeah.
and we'd go places and people just the way they
just doesn't give a shit. Yeah, and doesn't need to.
Yeah, exactly. But people have no idea, and
Right.
so yeah, you never know who's at your booth.
Yep, never know. So it was such a cool time, and like I say, I was that kid that was, and those knife makers, like my first knife show in Eugene, Oregon, like Rick and Barry and Wade, Shane, those 4 were going in a car out there. And well, at that show, actually, that one was Barry and Rick, but they allowed me to ride in the back seat, and they took this little kid, right? Because it wasn't my parents making knives. Like they allowed me to go with, and they pulled up to the highway out of my parents' place, and Rick turned around and he's like, "What you hear in this car stays in your car, stays in this car." He's like, "Your parents think I'm respectable, like, because it's all the dirty jokes and
You're
everything."
about to hear some shit,
Yeah,
kid.
and they're just like, "Sit back there and shut up," And and I like to say this, like, to kind of like break away from my story for a second. There's a major lesson that I think everyone needs to think about in that is that this is a guy that was an outfitter, kind of a hard-going, gruff guy, whatever. I was just some kid on his baseball team that he was coaching, and he took the time to invite me to his shop to teach me, and like, look what came from it.
Yeah, it's all it takes.
And if you're a guy in some town somewhere and one of your son's kids on the basketball team's asking you 100 questions about bow and arrows because he knows you're a hunter, like, maybe invite that kid over and like say, "Hey, I'll teach you how to shoot a bow."
Absolutely.
Or I'll take you hunting. You can tag along and come with my son or my daughter, and I'll take you bird hunting, or whatever it is, right? If you're a woodworker, you run heavy equipment, and this kid's like just always asking you about your backhoe, right? Like, well, hey, come out on the job and I'll let you ride around with me. And you don't have any idea what kind of a spark that you might potentially ignite. And that kid might own a giant construction company someday, and it's all because and maybe that kid's dad is a white collar guy, or maybe he doesn't have a dad, right? And there's just, I think just we need more mentorship in this country. And
Absolutely.
So many people are stuck on phones and behind screens and whatnot. And I know for me, like, that's how I learned how to hunt. My dad wasn't a hunter, worked really hard and whatnot, but just hunting wasn't his thing. And I had a couple guys in town I'd ask, about hunting, and they would just take me bow hunting. They taught me how to bow hunt.
That's all it takes. It's just one kind gesture. I try to do it as much as possible. There's a couple of young kids that I mentor that are going to military and some other things with entrepreneurship, but that's how it is. It's, you have no idea the outcome of just by I'm not even saying give a kid a chance. Just if he has an interest in it, just show him a little bit of it.
Just show him something.
Hey, here's how you tie flies. Here's some of the equipment that's going to save you a ton of money. I actually got a whole pile of shit in the back I haven't used in years. Like, have at it.
Yep.
And that's it. And and who knows, fast forward 10 years. And I mean, and it's getting kids, like you said, off the phones, off the computers. It gets them outside. If it starts a little passion for them, it's that little small amount of energy to put into something turned you into a multi-millionaire that is now employing hundreds. You got to be over 100 employees. Yeah. And have a huge facility, all because a guy just wanted to take a few minutes to show you a knife. Yeah. It's that simple.
It's that simple. And it was me that stuck with it and whatnot, but those guys took the time to, let me room with them in motels in Atlanta and, Eugene, Oregon, and all these different places. And I'm sure I was annoying at times and whatever, but they put up with it. And I was also a good kid, but I asked 100 damn questions, and I'm sure they were just, and they had to, they weren't going out to bar. Like, they had me with them, right? They weren't going out to bars, and I'm sure I, crimped their style at times, but it didn't matter to them. They were all about trying to become better knife makers, and I was just in it, and so it was just a neat time for sure.
What an incredible opportunity.
There's also something I think too of like, be careful in this internet age when you're trying to learn something of trying to only learn it on the internet. Like, go knock on some guy's door or go ask him like, hey, and have an actual conversation, because there's so many little nuances and things that you learn when you're standing in somebody's shop.
Oh, for sure.
Versus watching a YouTube video.
The sounds, the smells, the feel. I mean, and then if you have somebody that's got 30 years that lives down the street from you, it's probably going to have a little bit more knowledge than some YouTuber that you're watching that,
Well, and when I shoot a YouTube video of something in my shop, like, there's a lot of little nuanced things you leave out. Like, you're trying to make it, it's like, I need to, this thing can't really be over 30 minutes, or nobody wants to watch it for 8 hours.
Yep.
Right? But if you're really interested in something I'm doing, and I do one little thing, you're like, why'd you do that?
It's like skinning out. I do a lot of hunting clinics for father-sons and take them out, and I'll just be walking through, and how something that we can do in the pitch black when your headlamp's dead, and you're like, hey, kid, hold this, and you're,
Right.
But when you're explaining it to people, there's why you hold the knife this way instead of this way, right? And then you start seeing them cutting through the hide instead of going under and in. Just those million little things that we do with our eyes closed, but that doesn't translate to a video. So get out of your comfort zone, find somebody that's done it or doing it, and just watch and ask questions. For sure.
Yeah. Exactly. And you develop cool relationships within that.
Absolutely. Because then people show interest. And when you have interest in something that somebody else cares for, and they're already started that hike up the trail, they're going to bring you right along with you, especially if you're showing like you're into this. At least anybody that cares and is into it, and not just for themselves or try for an image, but if you're genuinely see somebody that's working, been in an industry or a hobby, whatever it is, and you ask them and they're going to take it in, man, run with it.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Exactly. And so I did the journeyman thing, and then, you have to be a journeyman for 2 years before you're eligible to test for a master. Well, I was in high school playing sports, working for my dad, so I wasn't ready in 2 years. So it was 4 years later. I was actually a freshman in college. I decided to do my Master Smith test. And so,
which is a big deal.
It is. Yeah, and that one's much tougher. One, you have to do the performance blade again, but it has to be out of Damascus steel that you make.
Okay.
300 layer or more Damascus steel blade. And then you have to go back to Atlanta with 5 knives, but this time one of them has to be a Quillian dagger, which is just a difficult knife to make. They make you make that because it's easy to have problems with.
Okay.
And so it shows a certain level of ability, and then they really judge you tightly. And so I did that when I was 19 years old, and I passed that and was the youngest in the world to do that. And I think there was like 84 or 5 at the time, and now there's 150 or so.
Still. Mm-hmm. You were 19 at the time.
I was back in 2000.
Damn, good for you, man.
Yep. And so then from then on, I was getting pretty good at that point.
Okay.
And I felt like I was close to starting to compete with I was starting to make stuff that I felt like belonged somewhat next to my mentors, but not quite there yet.
For sure.
And so over the next 10 years, basically, I spent still striving to try to get to be, one of the top knife makers in the world. And not saying I got there. I mean, there's still guys that are just incredible, but I got to a pretty respectable level. And I went full time making knives when I was 20 years old or 21. It's a challenge, right? Making custom knives. You're an artist. Mm-hmm. You're selling 2 or 3 or 4 $10,000 knives. So you're collector base is very small. You go to a knife show with 3 or 4 knives, hoping to sell them. You sell them, you're rich, and then you come home, you pay your bills, and by the time you go to your next show, you're like, God, I hope I sell a knife because like I can't pay my bills if I don't.
So, not to backtrack a little bit, but once you got your certification of becoming a Master Bladesmith, right? What is the term?
Yep.
Correct term?
Yep.
Okay. Once you got your certification for that, does that put is that like a stamp of approval for collectors? Now they're after the Master Bladesmith's blade. So does that put you on another level? So are you still doing your normal knives, or are you now focusing strictly with hoping to collect collectors? What's the goal at?
Well, one, they actually do give you a stamp that you can stamp your blades with an MS.
Okay.
So like that's a big deal. Like the stamp of approval is real. And then yes, it was. I would say probably more so for me than any other knife maker ever. The Master Smith deal was a big deal because like it got a ton of publicity in magazines and all over about this kid doing this, right? So it helped me a lot, and I would say it generally helped a lot of knife makers. It's still a really cool thing to pass that.
Absolutely.
And there were certain collectors that were like, I only collect Master Smith's knives, right? So it does open up a potential other collector base. And then, what I had a lot of really good advice from knife makers who would say, hey, be careful. And they gave me this advice when I was 13, 14 years old. I was getting tons of orders, and I could have gotten the trap of like making the same knife over and over and over. Like I got 60 orders for the same knife, and for the next year, I'm just going to make that knife.
One blade.
That doesn't make you better.
Yep.
And I did. I had like a 2 or 3 year backlog when I was in junior high, and I had a couple of my mentors say, scrap all those orders. Like they didn't give me money or anything. Yeah. They were just like, want that knife. And they were like, make a list of people. When you make a knife, like put it up for sale, or you can call that list and say, hey, do you want this knife? But you don't have bills to pay. You don't have a house payment, all that stuff. Do what makes you better. Mm-hmm. Push yourself. And so that's what I really, for the most part, did. I would make an order here and there, but or I would take orders that I knew were going to push me. Mm-hmm. A guy'd walk up to at a show and say, I want a Bowie knife. I want you to go crazy. I want it to be the nicest knife you've ever made. I'm like, well, okay, that's going to be $2,000 or $3,000, and be like, cool, make it $3,500. Like, go all out. And so those were the collectors that were like, they're supporting your career, and they want you to like, I want the nicest knife you've ever made. And really, like a knife maker told me when I was in my 20s, he's like, every knife you make should be the nicest knife you ever made. Like you should that constant improvement. Yep. And so that's kind of the place I was in, the attitude I was in. And like I would go to shows and try to take at least one knife to a show that was like the best thing I'd ever made, to also show collectors at each show like I'm getting better.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just that was a cool experience. But it's also it's a tough one. Like people would put in orders, and then you'd get to their name, and then be like, well, my business is struggling, or it's a challenge. Like I have so much respect for someone who's making custom knives or painting paintings or making bronzes for a living and raising their family on it. And what's, I think, harder than ever today, thanks to like Forged in Fire, you have thousands, tens of thousands of like hobby knife makers, right? So I would go to a show, or even if I went today, or a professional knife maker goes to a show, and if he's really running his business the way he should, he's taken into account all his expenses. He knows he needs to buy health insurance, and he needs to know that grinder's going to wear out. And so, you have to price in all these factors of a business that a normal business person would be thinking about. Most knife makers and artists are pretty bad business people. And it's like, well, I have I have $50 worth of materials in this. I spent 5 hours making, I want to make $20 an hour. Here's my price. Right. Well, there's all these other factors. Well, did you figure in your electricity and your business? Do you even have business insurance? What about marketing? What about, right? And so I had some really good mentors that were professional knife makers who were like, here's how you need to price your knives, Josh. Like, if you want to make it last, this is what you need to do. So let's say that knife, I'm charging $1,000, but this hobby guy, he just kind of wants the cost of his materials out of it.
Yeah.
He's making really nice shit, but he only wants $500 for it. And a collector's at a show like, why is that $500 and that's $1,000? Like, that one's just as nice. And so that's an interesting thing that knife makers have to deal with. Like there's real hobbyists.
So is the hobby, I don't want to say hurting the industry, but they're now knives.
They're definitely competing against the full-time guy.
The high caliber knife guy is now getting pressure on the garage dad that's just knocking him out and throwing him up for $250 in all his cases.
Maybe the guy's a lawyer and his fun thing to do at night is go home and make knives, and he doesn't need the income, and he goes to the blade show and it's really for fun, and he throws his knives out there and he's like, if I get my money back out of what I got into it, like I'm good. I'm more, and I'm not shitting on that guy. I'm just saying like it's a real thing, right? There's the guy who's feeding 2 or 3 kids and a wife and trying to make it. And there's a guy who doesn't need to. And so, I had another friend of mine that was a knife maker. He was the opposite. He didn't need the money because of his job and retirement and whatever else. So he added money to the price of his. He's like, I'll give them away before I'm going to undercut the guy who's trying to feed his family.
I respect that for sure.
Yeah, he's like, he charged a good amount for his knives. One, they were really, really good. And if he was a full-time knife maker trying to make a living, like he could demand that price. But he'd be like, I'm not going to charge $1 less than these 5 guys over here that need the money. So that was, cool of him. And he'd be like, give it to my brother-in-law or friend of mine, or, he's a super cool dude. But, so anyway, that was kind of my livelihood. And I started making knives full time, and I made knives full time I was living here for about 10 years. It was a struggle. I mean, it's like real ups and downs. And then the economy of 2008-9 kind of happened. Yeah. And by 2010, I was also getting more to a grown-up part of my life. Like I had 4 kids, young kids, babies. And I was going to knife shows and starting to I was a peer now. I wasn't like the kid, right? I'm a 28-year-old dad going to shows with these other guys. And I'm
maturing in your industry.
Yep. And I'm looking around, I'm like, man, some of my mentors are 65 years old and they need to sell a knife as bad as I do. And that they should be retiring. Yeah. And they're starving artists. And I was starting to think I don't know if this is really a sustainable career.
It's a grind.
Yeah, it's a grind. And I don't know if that's how I want to do it. And there was some other stresses and stuff. So the economy, I had about a 2.5, 3 year backlog of orders for very expensive knives. And, when the housing crash happened, that went to a few months. Oh, I mean, everybody I called was like, because a lot of guys like to buy their knives with some of their stock. I'm going to move some stocks around and I'll pay you in a couple of days. And the stock market just was way down. It affected a lot. Businesses were down. And
a knife is the last thing on somebody's mind when they're about to lose their home.
Cut out of a budget. Yeah. And so a buddy of mine was working for the power company here. He was a welder. I was actually teaching him to make knives on the side just for fun. And, he's telling me, paid vacation and his benefits. And he'd be like, oh, yeah, I snowmobiled the last 3 days and unpaid vacation. I'm like, I grew up in excavation world. My parents, I'd never had paid vacation my whole life. And
vacation other than that, working for your dad.
Yeah, exactly. And that was called winter. When we weren't working.
We're downtime right now. Yeah. We got no contracts. You can go do whatever you want until we get the next one in.
Exactly. And so they were hiring an operator to run backhoe on the gas side, digging gas lines, and that's what I grew up doing. And so I decided to apply for the job there, got a job, and I thought, well, I'll become a welder. I can already kind of weld. I can learn to weld pipe. And worked there for about a year and started noticing all the gray-haired guys were linemen. There wasn't going to be a lot of opportunity for moving up for a while. Mm-hmm. And so I jumped over to the electric side and became a groundman, which is just a grunt.
Yep.
And basically just shut up and shovel and clean the trucks, Yeah. And the next year I got an apprenticeship and went through a 3.5-year IBEW apprenticeship and turned out as a journeyman lineman. And was making pretty good money and stuff. But while I was an apprentice, got divorced. And then about a year later, I was living in a double wide here on this property because this property was complete garbage when I bought it. I mean, you had to walk in from the road out there. I built the road we drove in on.
Really?
Yeah, there was dog shit on the floors in this trailer. There was garbage everywhere. There was no yard, no driveway, no sprinklers, no nothing. I mean, this was, my mom cried when she drove in. She's like, she thought we threw our money away. But I could see the mountains and the view, and I was like, no, I can make this.
I could turn this into something.
It was, I can't even explain how much. I mean, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
Ripped everything out of the house. We actually had to get tested to see if it was a meth house. I mean, it was that bad. And so anyway, I was divorced, and then my house burned down. Actually blew up. And yeah, I kind of screwed up.
Wow. We're not going to breeze over that.
Yeah. They my friends like to make fun of me for it.
Let's hear it.
I was going to work out of town, setting power poles up in St. Regis, hour and a half, 2 hours from here. And I had a gas line on my range that was kind of like, well, one, I had some burners that weren't igniting, like the wires were all cracked and whatever. It's a shitty trailer.
Yeah.
And then the gas line was like kinked feeding one burner. It looked really sketchy. And I'm like, I'm going to get our gas guys at work to make me a new gas line while I'm out of town working. And so I shut the propane tank off, which is like right where you're parked. I used to have a tank behind my shop. This obviously was just horse pasture. And so I came out, shut the tank off, and I was going to find the shut off when I went in there, crawling through the cupboards and get this. It was a built-in like range top thing in the cupboards. I get it disconnected, the line, and turns out the shut off was like down in the crawl space, like in the insulation of the trailer.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going to go around and get that done. But anyway, took me a little while to get that line off. I threw it in my car and I started doing some other things, and I was about late for work, and I just jumped in my car and left for work, fed the horses and left. And then I was like, oh, I need to turn my tank back on. I drove back in the driveway right here behind the shop, turned the tank on and left. And it was like 2 hours later, we were loading power poles on a trailer, and all of a sudden this old city foreman was running across the icy parking lot in his cowboy boots. We just had a huge bunch of snowstorms come through. It was early March, like massive, and snow everywhere. And he's running across the parking lot in his cowboy boots screaming, "Your house is on fire. Your fucking house is on fire." And there's like 5 of us standing there, and we're like, who's he? What's Luke yelling at? And he's like, "Josh, your house is on fire." And, you know, as an apprentice lineman, you don't have your phone on you. Like, that's kind of a thing. It was in the truck. Well, I run over the truck, grab my phone and wallet, lunchbox, everything that's in there. Grab my phone. I have like 180 missed calls. And right then it rings again. It's 911. And the neighbors had told them that, you know, I had 4 kids that lived here. And so the fire department was here chopping holes in walls, trying to make sure that there wasn't anyone in the house. And they were trying to get a hold of me to ask if anyone was here. And I was like, no, nobody's home. Like, don't risk their lives. Like,
yeah, let it burn.
And then I asked, I was like, well, how bad is it? And she was like, it's gone. Like, it's bad. So she was like, don't speed. Don't like make this worse. Like,
you're not rushing home to anything.
Yeah.
So.
And so I got on the interstate at Missoula, and I could see a black plume 20 miles away the whole time driving home. It was my house.
You're staring at this for
20 minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
And you just the whole time like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I screwed up something bad.
Well, and I was immediate. I was like, I knew. I was like, I don't think I got that freaking valve off. And I mean, I've built forges. Like, I do gas stuff. Like, I know how to do this stuff, right? And so I pulled in, and the everybody's here, right? And the fire chief comes over, and he's like, well, you know, we got to chatting, and he's like, so have you had anybody work on your house or do anything lately? Or like, is there any idea how this could have maybe started? And I was like, you know, and I'm thinking the whole way home, like, do you lie? Do you like, you start thinking of insurance?
Oh,
and like,
for sure. I mean, am I on the hook for this? What's this what's this going to cost me to get these guys out here? 100%.
Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, dude, like me this morning. And I was like, I explained what I did. And I said, I'm pretty certain I didn't get the valve off. And so they got, you know, once the fire's kind of burned out or whatever, they go in the house, they go right to that spot in the kitchen. Of course, it's steel pipe. So they cut that section out, and then they just run a wire down that section where that valve is, and the wire just goes right through it.
Yep.
And it turns out, I didn't know this at the time, like, I thought it's my fault, like, I'm going to be screwed. Like, insurance company's going to be like, oh, yeah, dude, you freaking screwed up. And turns out it's the opposite. I mean, you have insurance for accidents. People do all kinds of dumb shit. And had it been like, you know, a short in your refrigerator and your house burns down, it ends up to be this massive investigation that can go on for months, and then GE, gets sued by Allstate, and you could be 3 or 4 years of a legal battle waiting to see who's responsible to pay for this thing. They were actually like clear cut, open, closed case, like done deal. And then they worked with me on like the insurance stuff and what did you have and go through pictures and all that kind of rigmarole. But Allstate was great. And
did it blow your house up?
It blew my front door like 70 feet.
No shit.
There was glass all the way to my pond. You haven't seen the pond; it's behind. But because my trailer sat basically where this house is.
Okay.
My next door neighbor who's moved, but he said he came home from work, walked in the house, heard something. His dog started barking like crazy, and he's like, I walked out, and he's like, there were flames 80 feet in the air. He's like, your whole house was just fire.
Holy
and he was like,
shit.
oh, and he's the one that called 911 and was like, there's a family in there.
So it just poured. It just poured gas until it hit one of the igniters.
Well, I had a wood stove. So it just pooled, and gas is heavy, right? It just pooled and pooled and pooled for 2 hours, and then,
enough to hit the wood stove, huh?
Way it went.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So after you get paid out, is that what you build this house with?
Well, yeah, and it's funny. My buddies, of course, the linemen, they're like, "Oh, you burn down your trailer and you build a goddamn mansion." Like, "Oh, isn't that nice?" The insurance, I'm like, "Yeah, I wish it worked that way." The insurance company gives me, $150,000, and then I went to the bank and
got another loan.
Yeah, borrowed money. I was like, well, if I'm going to build a house, I'm going to try to build my last house because this is a great piece of property, and so. Yeah, and that's another thing, man, a banking local, like single guy now with no house, apprentice lineman, no guarantee I'm even going to be a journeyman. I got to pass the tests and do the book work. And like went down to this bank and was like, I need help. Like I need a loan, but I need you guys to kind of like basically be behind me. And small town bank, and they were like, we'll just do the loan in-house. We know you. We've known you for a long time. We trust you. Like, we'll back you. Yeah. Even when I built this building that we're sitting in, I went down there and I'm like, so I got a crazy idea. Got this knife company going. I need to borrow $750,000 and build a commercial building that the county really isn't going to know about in my backyard.
We're just far enough off the road. They're not going to probably find out for a while.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And, I put in for permits, but it was like, I can say it now, but it was like, Josh's man cave. And like, if you look at the plans for this, it's like kids play room, reloading room, like this. And it wasn't like 7 people in an office, like
80 employees later. Yeah.
The septic system's designed for, the guy that's out here on the weekend, by himself tinkering on things, not for 80 employees. I was getting our septic tank here pumped once a month.
Oh, shit.
Just because my buddy that owns the septic business was like, dude, your system will fail.
Oh,
it's not designed.
And that's not cheap to redo.
Yeah. So, so like, again, they were like, we've been, they'd been seeing this knife stuff happening, and they're like, we got you. We'll loan you. Like, it was a weird thing to do and whatnot, but yeah, you bank local and you develop relationships. You can walk in and be like, hey, Bill, like, I have an idea or I need help.
How can we do this?
Small town banks. That's the difference between America and Europe and most of the rest of the world. We have small town banks. We cannot let those things go away. You're a farmer and, shit goes wrong. Your barn burns down. You need to walk down to the bank and be like, hey, Ben, I need a loan and I'm in a bad spot. It's like, well, we've known your family for generations. Like, we got you.
Yeah. That goes, now with this whole central banking and shit, not to get off topic, but that's the stuff that's scary because people don't realize how many people depend, even medical bills, in these old towns, and somebody has an emergency and they have a hard time, the banks will help them out. And that's one of the huge benefits of small town living or small community areas, knowing everybody. Could play both sides of that sword, but that's the benefits of being able to, hey, I need some help. You've seen what I've done in the past. I've been around. I got a name for myself, whatever it may be, and then get a little bit of help.
Well, there are no small town community banks in Europe, like zero.
Yeah.
There's like 2 giant conglomerates, right? And when you think about ingenuity in America invents shit, right? And we have that spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit, right? And the guy that goes down to the bank's like, I want to build this website and start this podcast. I need $5,000, right? And he takes a $5,000 loan, and the next thing you know, he's doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in podcast ads, right? Well, or whatever it is, like Montana Knife Company today may not exist if our bank doesn't say, hey, we see you growing out of your little garage. We know you can't buy what we're doing now. Like, we're going to help finance your little building and your horse pasture, and like see if this thing's going to keep going, or like, is this going to kind of flame out, right? Yep. And that loan to build this was the stair step that I needed to build what I'm doing now.
For sure.
Right. And even this big building, it kind of grew past to where this bank here was like, $20 million loan. Like, that's out of our wheelhouse.
Is that what you asked for the new facility?
Yeah.
Damn, good for you, man.
And again, through relationships and a single person owned bank in Missoula who we got connected to, they were like, they looked through everything and they're like, this is what we do. We take on kind of risky loans and we back people that have ideas, and they backed us.
Can I ask you a kind of a personal question? Going from a 15-year-old kid playing baseball, you got the coach that shows you a knife, to fast forward to now, to walking into a bank, like, I have this crazy idea. I need $20 million. What does that feel like?
I mean, I don't know if it's much different than my parents made me borrow money to buy knife equipment from the bank when I was 15 years old.
Smart.
And so I don't know if it's much different than being 15, walking in and your dad saying, you got to go talk to Mark Lyons and you have to borrow money for that hydraulic press you want to buy.
Got it. Okay.
That's pretty intimidating.
For sure.
So I don't know if it's any more intimidating at 45 than it is at 15, borrowing $2,500.
Yeah.
And my parents made me do that to, one, be responsible, learn how business works, right? Like, yes, I also borrowed money from my parents at times, and we would keep tallies, like borrow money in the winter to do this, that, whatever, and then I would work it off in the summer, and we'd keep our hours. But they also made me, there were several times I would go borrow from the bank when I was a kid. And, it's all scary, but it's, it's doable.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it's just one of those things you just have to start eating the elephant, one bite at a time. Yeah. And it's a cliche, but it's true. Like,
it is, especially in the entrepreneur world. That is one of those like should be on a wall with all the rest of the, the entrepreneur quotes that come out. But, we've taught that with our kids through, obviously, my oldest taking on the producer and then our youngest with a bakery and everything. But it's just like, okay, we got to do this bread show. It's like, okay. One bite at a time. What do we need? What do you think? And we break it down to the most Barney style level, and then start building from there. And that just comes with the nature of the beast. No matter, I don't think the scale of business wise, you're going to have your own little bites. It might just be a little crumb here at one point, but then you might be.
If you solve a problem every day, 60 days in, you've solved 60 of your problems. That's a lot of problems.
A lot of problems.
So just start solving problems. And sometimes some problems are way too big to solve today. And I'm like, I'm going to solve that later, but I'm going to solve these 3 little ones over here. And
I can get these 3 knocked out by the time I could even just get this going or figure out why it's a problem.
That's a problem that I might have to solve when I have more help later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I don't have the expertise to solve that problem today, but I'm going to start looking for the guy that can help me solve that problem,
Yep.
So that's kind of what it is, but it's, now back to kind of where I was at with my story, rebuilt the house that summer. I lived in a camper in my driveway with my 4 kids. I was like broke as hell. I bought an old piece of shit pickup that stranded us up on the pass from my foreman. And like, I was just so broke. And I tell all that story just to say, like, I wasn't coming from like big money, or this wasn't like Montana Knife Company wasn't something like I had a millionaire friend and I was like, hey, loan me $250,000. I'm going to start this. Like,
you weren't a trust fund kid where your dad's like, here, go chase your hobbies, buddy. Like,
no,
I'll fund it for you.
No, in fact, things had gotten, kind of rough with being divorced and to pay all that stuff, plus the house burning down and whatever. And so, but going back a little bit, when I was 19 years old, I knew someday I might want to start a knife company. And so my mom actually had me do this. This is where, like with what you're doing with your daughter, like it's good parenting, but It's like, let's say she has an idea. My mom, we came up with the name Montana Knife Company. My mom was like, that's a really great name. I'm going to register that with the state of Montana for you.
So
like,
smart.
like protect it.
Yeah.
So we registered it, and I actually have pamphlets and stuff from when I was 25 years old that have Montana Knife Company printed on it. And I had the name. I even had it on some checks, but it wasn't, at that time, that whole knife business was all Josh Smith knives. It was just my custom knives.
Yep.
But I had the name, and I always wanted to start this business. And so when I was a lineman later on, I would be in the bucket truck working, and my buddy Dave Kennedy, who's a big hunter, we would be talking about like our dreams and stuff. And I'd be like, I want to start this knife company. And I explained it to him. And we talked about this a lot, especially in the last like couple years. I was getting close to like, I want to start this. Mm-hmm. And what would it look like and all this stuff. And so after my house deal, later the next year, I met my wife, Jessica. So that was 2016. I met Jess, started dating. And then when we were getting pretty serious, I was telling her, I think by this point we were married, but I told her like, I want to start this knife company, this Montana Knife Company. And she's like, well, you should do it. Like, let's do it. And she said, I have the house and kids.
I love a good supportive wife.
Go. Yep. She's like, when you get home from work, go out to your shop. I got the house and kids like morning and night. And so I did. So actually it gets more supportive. Her dad, right after that, passed away unexpectedly. And she inherited about $18,000. And so she said, take that money and buy your steel to start MKC. And so I did.
What a badass wife, man.
Yeah.
Props to her.
Went and bought steel, and then I used that money to pay a guy right out here in Bonner to water jet some blades for me. And I started paying to like get these different things done around the country. And I was calling all over trying to find someone who could mill this or make that or whatever, right, and piece this thing together. And I had guys like, I told some knife makers my idea of this knife, and they're like, dude, you can't like make it making $300 hunting knives. Like, you can buy $49 knives at Walmart, and no one's going to buy that. And I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, what I see in the hunt industry is I see a bunch of really proud American people that I think would support buying American, but I just don't think they know what a good knife is. And I also don't think that they've been talked to in the right way by these companies. And I just believed that it would work. And so, went to an event in February of 2020 out to Sornex to Winter Strong.
Okay.
To Bert Soren's. Got invited out there by another knife maker to help kind of demonstrate at this thing. And there is something about hanging out with people who have accomplished a lot of shit. Right? They're just like, they make you feel like you haven't done enough in life in whatever way. And that Winter Strong event is a collection of amazing people that Bert's met. You know, he's in the fitness industry, but he's also big into hunting, so he likes to combine the two. And so you might have former Olympian or a current Olympian or an NFL player or a football coach or a fitness instructor, but then you might have, you know, a few big-time people from the hunting industry or somebody who works for Sitka that does all their whatever, like science work on their, you know, threads in their clothing, and like big business people have started businesses, and like this really cool group of people, and people from the military. And it's like, oh, you got people from SEAL Team 6 here. And it's all over. And what's cool is it's a community of like, us in the fitness and the sports industry are going to teach health and fitness and all this stuff and teach that to these guys who can use that to go elk hunting. But then this hunt industry is going to share how to shoot a bow and how to shoot a gun. And, you know, this guy in the NFL has never even held a pistol, and how do you shoot a gun and how do you do it safely? And so what we got I brought some prototypes out and I showed them around. I was like, I'm thinking of starting this company. And what we got was just like incredible support and like, do it. Like everybody was just like, go do it. We'll support you. We got your back, and like, you can do it. And they were crazy supportive. And we left there like, let's freaking do it. Like, let's go.
Motivated,
just super motivated.
Yeah. And not to interrupt, the feeling that you kind of touched on, where when you sit at a table of guys that have built multi-$10 million companies and sold and bought and sold and bought, and they're developing this and they're in the process of selling this or acquiring this, you sit back and you're like, oh fuck, like I thought I was crushing life with my little bakery and
Right.
podcast. I'm like, then, but it motivates you in a way like, okay, all these dudes were sitting in my seat 1 year, 5 year, 10, 20 years ago, but they all started at this point. And then to be able to get the knowledge from them to be like, oh shit, okay, this is how they were able to scale this type of business, or just, oh yeah, hey, I got a guy for that. I got a guy for this. Oh, I got a shipping company.
Right.
Then you start getting that network, and it's like this boost of energy that comes with your motivation. Like, hey, I'm going to start this company. And then you talk to these guys and like, oh, it's easier. I got this lined up. You call this guy will help you with that.
Well, and it humanizes them too, because you realize after you spend a couple days with them, like, oh, they're just normal dudes.
Struggle just like everybody else.
They just struggled. Like, you hear their story, or I would be hanging out with them and I want to hear all about what they're doing. And, but they're wanting to see everything that I'm like when I'm forging at the forge. Right. And they're like completely into it. And they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You got to do this. And they're like more excited about what I'm doing. And it's like, it makes you feel like, oh, maybe I do have something I can do. Like maybe I have something to offer. And you talk to them about how they got going. And it's like, no, it was my wife and I, and we just like started and here we are. And so I was like, God, we can do that. Like, I think we can do that, And so.
And this was 2021?
2020.
Okay, 2020.
February. So we come home. It was like the first weekend in February. Flying home, they're really starting to talk about COVID. A little bit going out.
Yep.
3 days later, flying home, they're like, it's on the news a lot. And a week later, it's like everything. And 2 weeks later, they're shutting shit down.
Yep.
And what I did different this time than what I did in 2010, in 2010, I'm watching the news and they're like, we're headed into a depression. Like the economy's going to just fully collapse. And I'm like, 4 kids and I don't know what would have happened, but like I changed kind of career paths for a lot of reasons. But part of it was like the breaking news on television, right? And just worrying about like, well, can I be a successful knife maker and do all this stuff, right? And so I went and kind of took this, I wouldn't call it the easy path, but like more assured, like you're going to make a salary and pay vacation and all this. And so with COVID, I was like, I'm not watching this shit. I'm like, we are ignoring this. And I just went to my shop every day and I was listening to Andy Frisella and like finding motivation wherever I could. And, his MF CEO podcast and just like soaking in, like, fucking do it. Right. And just take no for an answer. Don't take no for an answer. And so through that connection, I got connected with Brandon, my business partner, and I hired him to come down from Kalispell to take some pictures and do some content. And he was like, well, I can build you a website. I was like, okay, cool. Well, he went home and like sent me a homepage later that night. And I was like, damn, like this is good. Cause I explained to Brandon when he came down here to shoot photos for me in my Ford shop, what I was trying to build. I'm like, this is the feel I want. This is what it can be. I explained the whole Montana Knife Company. Just like, I want it to be more than just making some knives. Like it's a brand. It means something. Well, his website he sent, or the homepage he sent me was like, damn, that's the feel right there. And so I hired him to build me a website, and he was also starting his own little marketing company. And so I was paying him to do stuff, and we got to like August. And, actually in July, I went to our first Total Archery Challenge, and I'm like, I'm going to introduce myself to the hunt industry. And so we just went to Big Sky and just walked up. We didn't know a single soul.
Oh, shit.
And I started just giving knives away to a few different people and introducing ourselves. And Brandon called us the morning we were driving up the hill. We were in Big Sky, and he's like, hey, your guys' website's live. Congratulations. Like, you have a business. And we're like,
oh, shit.
Okay, cool.
And you're still a lineman at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so it was funny. We got to August, and I told my wife, I'm like, we're running out of that first $20,000. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I can't afford to keep paying him to do stuff. And I said, I need a guy like this. Like, I'm going to offer him partnership in the company. And so, I call him up and I offer him partnership, and we kind of chatted about it, went back and forth a little bit. And, I gave him significant portion, like nearly half. Right. And I said, I want you all in. Like, if this goes well, I want you to do well. I don't want this to be where you own like 10%, but it's not worth your time to deal with for the next 5 years.
And then you're growing your company on the side. That's going to get more love and attention. And I want you to pile in everything into this.
I want, if this, and that's exactly what happened is like, we partnered up in September of 20. And then I was still a lineman, kept working at it. And then I needed the last day of 2020 off. I needed December 31st off. Thomas Rhett, the country music store, reached out, wanted to meet up and get a knife down in Big Sky. And I went into my boss here about a week before that, and I was like, I need December 31st off, but I'm out of vacation. But our vacation resets on the 1st. I have 4 weeks on the 1st. Like, I could take all of January off on the 1st.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, you're out of vacation, like, just corporate, right? And I was like, well, think about it. A couple days before I came in, and he's like, yeah, you're out of vacation. And I'm like, dude, you need to figure this out.
I'm not coming to work.
And my wife kept trying to get me to quit for like 2 months.
Good for her.
She had been like, you need to quit your job. And I'm like, babe, making $100,000, paid vacation.
Like, Kush, we got it here in the valley.
That is not, I don't know if that's smart. And she's like, you got something. You need to do this. I remember sitting in the hot tub just being like, babe, I can't quit my job to do this. And she kind of kept at me. And so I walked in there on December 30th, and I was like, all right, so Jack, what do you think about tomorrow? Like, I need tomorrow off. And he was like, yeah, dude, I can't. Like, it's just how the system works.
He couldn't even just be like, yeah, dude, you got it. Like, I got you.
That's what I said. Like, how about unpaid? Like, unpaid day off.
Yeah.
It's December 31st. We're doing nothing.
Yeah.
It's a holiday the next day.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing jack shit. And he was like, yeah, it's just the corporate stuff. And I was like, all right, I quit. I'll be done at noon today. And he was like, what? And I was like, well, I'm going to go run this service for this house because, like, you know, I just showed up to work and there's a whole crew ready to go. Like, I'm going to go. I was the foreman. I'm like, I'm going to go do this. And then that should take till about noon, and then I'm done. And he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I told you I needed tomorrow off. And he was like, well, shit, I didn't know you needed that bad. I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right. And so
he just let you quit?
Yeah.
How long have you known this guy?
He had been a boss there for a couple of years, but that's the thing. You're in a big corporation.
Corporate world,
like, yeah,
man. Like that's
they don't care.
That's the shit. Once you leave that, there's no going back because of that right there.
Yeah.
Like they're so disconnected.
Yeah.
Here you are, probably been in there 15 years, whatever, just middle of winter, doing whatever in the storms, and here you want 1 day off, and the dude can't even just. That's where I am when people are like, man, like my parents were that for my whole life. Like, you need to get a corporate job. I'm like, fuck. There's no way when you leave that world you're ever going back just for that exact reason. Yeah. Can I ask you something real quick? Though, actually, not ask. I want to kind of on the lineman stuff before we move away.
Yeah.
I went military. Spent my times overseas in the Marines, did all that bullshit. But I mentor a lot of these young kids. I also am in the utility world. I got in by having my own executive security company. I started helping a lot of the CEOs and stuff of these big power companies. Long story anyways. So I got drawn, kind of sucked into the utility side of things with PAR, Quanta, Southern California Edison, PG&E. I was working for all those big wigs. I want to talk real quick on how incredible the blue-collar trades are right now, especially for these young men and women that are coming out. Obviously, I'm anti-war, even though you're talking to a veteran. I bought into the 9/11 shit, went and served my country, took my oath, never found weapons of mass destruction. Obviously, we see how political stuff's going now. So it's really hard for me, and I get asked a lot, like, if you had sons, would you encourage them to join the military? And I'm really torn because obviously the military is what you make of it. But it also created the man who I am today, and I have my family because of the military. But at the same time, I was painted a different picture. So I'm 50-50 on it. But
yeah, you're definitely conflicted.
Conflicted for sure.
And I have an about to be 18-year-old son. Nothing would make me prouder if he, was in the military and being very, very successful. But I'd also be super worried about him, and also just like, well, they've broken the trust, right? So you don't know.
That's what it comes down to. Who are you fighting for?
If my son went overseas and had to die for this country for the most valid of reasons,
100%,
it's the most honorable thing that you could ever do for your country. But
are we fighting for these reasons?
Did those dudes really need to go down on that plane last week? Like, are they really a threat? Like, and I've been very quiet on this particular war thing because, like, I'm pretty much in your camp, but I'm also like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what they see, and I don't know, like, if they are an imminent threat or whatever. But I know today they're hitting a few boats and with drones in the Gulf, but, like, they're not a threat to my country at the moment. Now, Yeah, it's such a complicated
It
thing.
is, and it's hard to explain from my point of view, but the military is what you make it. I had the most incredible experiences. I have some of my best friends that were trauma bonded for the rest of our lives. My kids are friends with their kids.
Right.
So it's an incredible thing if you go in for, hey, if you want to do college, whatever, but just know what you're going in for.
Right. Right.
But a thing that I try to push a lot of these young men and women into, mainly men, because it's just kids that are reaching out, into the trades. Because it is such an incredible career if that's your route. Can we touch on it really quick of how it kind of sets you up or just some of the benefits and things? Because obviously with AI is destroying the marketing, the internet world. I just saw a thing this morning that Meta's laying off thousands of employees. Like all these big tech companies are now just firing people because they don't need it anymore. In this country, I think it was, God, don't quote me on it, I want to say BlackRock or something came out saying that we're like 600,000 to 800,000 plumbers that are needed right now. Like we're that far behind. So as somebody that has gone from entrepreneur as a young kid and then went into the trades and then left it, I want to touch on this really quick, the benefits, and just would you recommend this generation of kids kind of filling in those shoes as far as the trades?
1,000 and 1,000 more percent. Yeah, I grew up in the trades in my dad's excavation business and stuff, but it's funny, basically like my second dad growing up, one of the closest people we were around all the time was our lineman in our town, and I just didn't know what he did. It was like, Mike's just the power guy. I didn't really figure out what he did until I went to work on the gas side and then started seeing what the linemen are doing, and then I was like, damn, that's a cool job. Yeah. And I was like, Mike, I really wish I would have paid attention when I was a kid what Mike was doing, because I might have gone into that right out of high school. The trades in general, and you hear Mike Rowe talk a ton about this. Him and I have become friends, and he is what you would expect him to be when you meet him. But it's such a great message. It's irreplaceable. AI is not going to affect it. It's not going to change it. Like, you might use it in certain ways, but like you're going to need linemen, plumbers, roofers, framers, backhoe operators, like the whole 9 yards. The lineman thing specifically, I'm not sure if there's another trade out there that I could say is as close to being in the military
for sure
as the lineman trade. Because if we're both linemen and we're standing in a bucket truck, we'll be half the distance right now between us right now. We're going to be shoulder to shoulder. We're going to be flying up in the air in that bucket truck to go work to rubber glove on the power lines. And if you screw up, you potentially kill me.
Yeah.
Or if I screw up, I kill you, right? And so, going back to the groundman job, you're a grunt, you're entry level, you're a piece of shit, shut up. I don't care if you have 4 kids at home and you have a little bit of gray hair, like you're still a grunt. Just like the 18-year-old. You better bust your ass, you better keep the trucks clean. When I ask for something, you better run to the truck and run back. Like,
you're the greenhorn all over again.
Yeah, and they are trying to figure out a way to wash you out. And they're going to even put unfair pressure on you at times to just see how you do perform under pressure. Are you a hothead? Are you going to tell the foreman to go fuck himself? Or are you just going to be like, fucking asshole, but go do it, right? And then you get your apprenticeship, and you're still a piece of shit. But then you start to learn, right? And they start to, every 6 months they're testing you, and you start to earn a little bit of respect.
Yep.
Right, and they allow you to climb poles at that point, and then you start to work some stuff that's hot, but it's only like 120 volts, 240 volt. You're not working the 7200 stuff. And then all of a sudden, by your 5th step or 6th step, you're able to go up and work on the actual power lines with the journeyman. Like, journeyman takes you up, and you're touching the power lines when it's full 7200 voltage and rubber gloves, and he's watching you like a hawk, and he's telling you every move to make, and then you're communicating with each other, and you're like, hey, Bam, watch your back. Like, you've got wire in your hand, and you're moving it, but I'm watching you, and I'm like, hey, ground wire behind you, watch your back, this and that. I got you. Okay, it's mine. Okay, it's yours. Yep, it's mine. Like, you're communicating, right? And you are trusting that the guy next to you isn't going to make a mistake and kill you.
Which it happens.
It happens, unfortunately. Also, you're trusting, like we do, hurt man rescue, where there's a 200-pound dummy hanging from a crossarm. You got to throw your tools on at the truck, climb that pole with a rope, and rig it up to that guy and send him to the ground safely, right? I need to know that you are physically capable enough to climb up that pole and save my ass if it's a problem, right? And I need to know that you can carry 60, 80 pounds of gear on your back 2 miles in to a structure that a tree went down because we can't get bucket trucks to it, right? And if you're a fat piece of shit, I don't want you on my crew because you can't carry your load, you know? And it's, guys are really hard on you, but also, like, there's a lot of love there, right?
The brotherhood.
There's a brotherhood. And, like, you get done working a storm that's been, like, there's some legit, you know, you get a bunch of trees and wire on the ground, and there's thousands of pounds of tension, and we got to work together to rig that shit all off, and you work for 30, 40 hours straight in a windstorm getting people's power back on, and people are thanking you for your service, you know, thank you for getting our power on and whatever, and, like, you get to the end of it, and you, like, there's a brotherhood there.
For sure.
That, like, we all got through that, and we're all safe. Now, I'm not saying it's the same as the military, but it's there's that kind of trust, and there's life and death on the line. You know,
there's a lot of trauma bonding that goes on within the lineman world,
and
too.
It's like getting through buds, and you think, like, oh, I'm a Navy SEAL now, and then you show up to your first, you know,
duty station,
and they're like, go clean the toilets, you piece of shit. And you're like, wait, I thought I was a Navy SEAL.
I made it, though.
You get through your journeyman test, and you show up to work the next day as a journeyman, and they're just like,
now you're the new journeyman.
You're actually just the most dangerous journeyman.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really actually know me, you know? And then they send you out on your own. They're like, hey, you're on service this week and you're by yourself. And you're like, wait, for the last 3 years, I've had a journeyman next to me. Like,
what do you mean?
Now I'm by myself. But to your point, you get through all that stuff and you're 25 years old and you're making $100,000 to $350,000, $400,000 a year. Like, if you're contracting and you're heading to California, you're working hurricanes and doing all that. You're working out of helicopters, you're climbing poles. It's very physical, but it's cool. You can do it anywhere in America. It's a fantastic career. And for guys, like, and I do tell when I've given speeches in high schools, like, pay attention to math, because the first thing they hand you when you get an apprenticeship is a math test. If you can't pass that math test, you're not an apprentice. So you do have to know a little bit of algebra and, you know, be able to pass your book work and understand some of that stuff and know how to study. But you get through all that, it's a fantastic career, you know. And frankly, you're going to make more money than most people that have college degrees.
100%. By the time, and I that's what a big talking point for a lot of these kids that I talk to is, by the time your friends are even considering paying off their college debt, you're going to have your fifth wheel with a nice dually truck, traveling around, and you're just going to be banking. It's such a great opportunity. I do not know why our schools, I'm sure there might be some in these little country-ass towns, but it should just be one of these things. Like, why are we pushing our kids to go straight into the workforce, like corporate, or to go to college? Like, we've talked about it on the show before. I'm not anti-college, but we're not pushing our kids for college because I'd rather them be learning.
Yeah. And I say that, and I got 2 kids in college right now. Like, my daughter wants to be a vet. Perfect. Got to go to college.
100%.
Right? The other one's a school teacher, and she's just finishing this year. Like, I understand that. But, yeah, you don't have to go to college. You can always go later.
Absolutely. I think it's been one of those spun boomer stories that they bought into, and now that's just how life is. But that's where I tell these guys, they're like, well, what about college? I'm like, dude, fuck college.
Yeah, and in the trades, as an apprentice in any of these trades, I mean, I think a groundman at entry level lower than whale shit, I think you're making $28 an hour starting. You know, you're up in the $35 an hour range as an apprentice, close to $40 an hour, and by the time you're a journeyman, you're $50, $60 an hour.
Not to mention overtime, time and a half, whatever it is with all the storms.
And you're, like you say, you're not going into debt. You're being paid to learn something that you can then, you get married and your wife is like, I want to move back to Pennsylvania where my family's from. Like, you can go get out there and get a job.
Hit up a union, whatever.
Yep.
There's so many opportunities. I know some of these young kids. I actually, one kid used to mow my lawn, and he followed me on Instagram, and he's mowing my lawn one day, and I'm out in the garden. He's like, are you bad? I'm like, fuck, this kid knows who, because, you know, I don't want people knowing my space. And I'm like, yeah, man, what's up? And he's like, man, I don't know what to do. I'm thinking military. I'm thinking this. And, you know, in Boise, right down the street from our house is Quanah's lineman school.
There's a line school. It's one of the best in the nation.
Yeah, it's the Pacific whatever lineman school, and so it's incredible. I was like, man, have you thought about this? I was like, I have a lot of connections in the industry. Like, if you ever want to go that route, this little shit, like months later, ends up shooting me a message. I don't know if you remember me. I used to mow your lawn. I just graduated lineman school. I'm like, dude, like here you go. And I gave him a bunch of contacts, and the crushing life right now. And this kid went from mowing lawns for a summer job. Summer was over, school was done, went and got it, went through lineman school, and now he's just crushing life. And I'm looking at him compared to his peers, and I'm like, what are your buddies doing? Oh, they're still figuring it out.
Well, and I use it as a springboard, right? I mean, I went into that, but then it did give me the stability where I'm like, I'm off at 4:30. Mm-hmm. I got 7 more hours in the evening to work on building a knife company.
Yep.
Right. Well, I don't have to be there till 7 in the morning. Well, shit, I'll be up at 5. I can put an hour and a half in. Put 5 or 6 hours in at night. I'm almost working an 8-hour day building my dream while that business, that career
is funding it,
right?
That's the perfect scenario.
Yeah, and I'm using paid vacation to go to TAC to show my knives around and talk to people, right? And so until it got to the point where it's like, I tell people too, they're like, I'm going to quit my job like you and start my career, and I'm like, well, how much have you done right now? And they're like, well, nothing. I got to quit. I don't have time. Like, oh no. You better keep that job, and you better get to the point where you have to quit your job. Like, unless you got a lot of money in the bank, I wouldn't just quit that to go chase your passion.
I'm 50-50 with you on that one, because I feel I'm one of those burn the ships, but like true burn the ships. And we just went through this we're actually in the middle of that process in our personal life right now of walking from things that we've had for, business for over a decade. But at the same time, when you don't have a plan B, it forces you to grow. But at the same time, I get what you're saying. It's like, if you're not even started yet, you should probably get things rolling. And then you're like, okay, I am 100% committing to making knives, making gun, whatever it is that you want to scale. That's when you're okay. I can't stay in this business forever. I can't stay in alignment forever, because I truly feel if I had more time, that's that point where you're like, okay, make that decision. I'm with you on that. So, and
it's dependent on everyone's situation, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like if you tell me like I do this and I'm not gonna be able to make my house payment in a month, like it's pretty risky. You're probably gonna want to have something to do. And I tell people like, well, if you're not working on what you're wanting to do till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, or you're not willing to get up at 6 in the morning and work for an hour or two, like, are you really that passionate about what you're trying to do?
That should be your first biggest sign if you're meant to that. If you're going to bed and you have a job and that's all you can think about is your side hustle, or your next fire you got to put out, or you're stressing because the materials are late, but meanwhile you have the whole job, that's the sign, okay, maybe it's time to start putting more love into that and make it your actual life now.
Exactly.
So I've been there where I got to go to, and I'm at work like, motherfucking, I got to build this, and when I get home, I got to order, and you're ordering shit at work, and you're scrolling,
that's
trying to find
like,
materials.
I couldn't wait for lunch because I had a half hour to make 10 calls and get shit. And when you're on a crew and you're in a bucket truck, you're not like, hold on a second, I need to make a phone call.
Hold on, one of my suppliers.
But I was like in between jobs driving bucket truck, and it was becoming a problem, which is the time where it's like,
time to jump.
All right, time to jump. Because like I say, quitting when I did, that was that kind of push of needing that day off. But it was also like, I felt like I was hindering our growth by not, making that leap. And then we went about 6 months, and that was the advantage of my wife still being a school teacher. Like, we went about 6 months before I took a penny, me or Brandon, in pay from the company. So we was putting everything back in,
Yep.
And so that's where the company really, like, January 1st of 21 is like, okay, this is it. It's all in.
Shit.
And then we started to grow, and that was that year where, the goal was like 100,000 in sales, and, we did 1.9 million that year, and that's when it like kind of took off.
What did that feel like to make your first million in a year?
It's weird. It's almost like a dog that catches the car it's been chasing forever, and you don't know what to do with it. You're like, it's weird, but it's weird because
that's the best way I've ever heard anybody put it.
Yeah, you're like, I caught the car, now what? But it's not like I had $1 million sitting in my bank account that I look at. It's like, well, Shopify says we've done $1 million in sales, but like,
I don't see it.
Yeah, but it's all that money's been put back into the system.
Absolutely.
Whatever profit was there is, driving the next knife drops.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that was probably one of the best things that we did is we started putting up those kinds of numbers. We didn't go get drunk on buying boats and shit, right?
Yeah.
Like
that's smart business.
It's like, yeah, we kept living like we had been living, which was on a fairly tight budget, and
I tell her that all the time.
We bootstrapped it. We didn't borrow any money until we went to build this building. And actually, Montana Knife Company didn't borrow the money to build this building. And this was a big risk on me and Jess's part, but we borrowed for this personally because we still had a home loan on our house and land. And then, like I said, we went to the bank to borrow this. And because, like, if MKC grew or whatever happened, like, they were never going to own this building. It's on my land, right? And so Jess and I built this and then rented it back to the company.
Got it. Yep.
And so it was kind of like, you know, taking a big risk because, like, if MKC went down in 2 years, we'd have this huge loan on this building.
And you're still in the, when I say infant stage, because obviously you sat on the MKC brand business for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Right? If my math for Marines is correct.
Yep.
So your 20 plus years is sitting on MKC, and then now you're like, okay, we're jumping into this. I mean, you're still figuring shit out. Granted, you've gone through the certifications, you've been making knives for most of your life, but when it comes to business, I mean, you're in the infant stages still as far as...
Well, you have a bakery, right? Mm-hmm. And probably relatively small.
Yeah.
Somewhat small.
Yep.
Now put bread in every Walmart in America. Like, it's not the same business, right? It's not the same business. And that's the thing. Like, yeah, I'm a custom knife maker, but, like, I'm making one knife, maybe two knives a month that are high end, right? And, like, my first knife drop was 200 knives. That was probably 150 to 180 more knives than I built in a year, right? And so, like, the construction methods, just everything was so much different. So, like, when you want to talk about figuring it out, like, yeah, like, you know, doing the parts and pieces and putting it all together over in that shop and then moving into this one, I told you, like, okay, we're going to try and bring the sheath making into here. So we started attacking each little individual. It's like, well, what's it going to take to grind blades in here? $1.5 million. Like, well, we're not doing that right now. Well, what's it going to take to make sheaths? Well, you can probably get that done for, you know, besides the CNC machine, like, you can probably get that done for like $10,000 worth of equipment. Like, okay, well, we can do that. Yeah. We can do that. And then the CNC machine, we're going to need it for handles and blades later anyway. So we'll you know, we saved up, and then it's like $150,000 for that. Like, okay, that's our first big purchase. Is like, we got one CNC machine that we actually don't know how to run, have anyone to hire to run it. Right. But that's when then I put out the job posting. Like, I need a machinist.
Was that your first position that you hired here? Or you were already rolling by that point. Yeah,
we had like 11, but it was more like assemblers. And then a big one was my director of operations, who came he came over from Amazon in Spokane, and I started turning over like operations while I was still like focusing on like, what's that next piece, and trying to like, and also be the lighthouse for the brand, and working with Brandon on the marketing stuff. And so Andrew was starting to run like supply chain and organizing the employees each day. And again, we were talking at that point when he came over, I think we had 4 employees.
Got it.
And he took a major risk to come in.
For sure.
I mean, he was involved in hiring basically all 4,000 people at the Amazon facility in Spokane. And he was managing basically the entire building. And when he came here, he put his laptop on my bench next to me over there, and it was just like 3 or 4 employees and Andrew and me.
Shit.
Like, but he believed, he wanted to come back to Montana, and he just believed so much in like what we had going. It was cool.
What was the best business decision that you made in the early days as far as staff?
Offering Brandon partnership.
Yeah.
So I think if I would have started Montana Knife Company when I registered it, or shortly thereafter, let's say when I was 22 years old, I would have been probably arrogant enough to think I can do everything.
We just talked about this.
I can post shit on the internet. Like, I can shoot some videos with my phone, or
I'll respond to customer service. I'll be in the DMs. I'll grow up marketing.
Yeah. And I probably also would have been greedier about like, well, I'm not going to give him that much percentage of the business. Like, and my thought was, when I gave it to him, like, well, if I if I build a $10 million business and I own 60% of it, like I'm happy, like I'm good. Right. And so instead of offering him 5%, you know, offering him 40% of it and telling him like, I want you all in. Right. And it either will sink and because there's nothing here now. So I'm giving you 40% of nothing, or it'll grow like crazy and we'll all be happy. Right. And then later on, that's why like this last year, like giving some other employees equity. Yep. Like I'm seeing that you're treating this like you own it and I need you to have ownership in it and stay with us and like help us keep growing it. So like now you're
good for you.
And so that's where I think it's being mature enough to understand what you're not good at.
Yep.
And recognize what people are. And then when you hire them, get the hell out of their way and let them do their
micromanaging.
Thing. Yeah, like like sure, I want to kind of know what's going on and be a bit of a part of it, right? It's my name on it. So I am very particular about certain things, but like tell me why you're going to do what you're going to do. If it seems like it makes sense, do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I'm pretty good at like, we're very hard to get on with. Like hiring is very much something that we take a lot of pride in. Yep. And our interviews are tough. But once we think that you're the person for the job, then do your freaking job. Like do it how you need to do it.
It's showing, it's paying off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, just touring your facility today, I think the part I liked the most was your knife sharpeners and how it's, you know, you explaining to me, hey, you see the guys without the apron, you got to earn your apron here.
Yeah.
And just that type of stuff builds it builds loyalty. It builds that pride. Like, man, I want to, you know, it's as far as getting a coin or a medal, whatever it may be as far as accomplishments.
Yeah.
But the fact that like those kids know and they're over there just bumping music, all of them are laughing, just grinding out blades. And then, you know, they know what they need to work toward. And it's creating that atmosphere of what you have on that floor in there is it is a massive component to why you guys are just turning out blades and quality blades too at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we set things up where you're encouraged to highlight your coworker. So instead of like feeling like, well, I got to step on Bam to get up and get Josh's eye and get that next position. It's like, no, I'm way more impressed when somebody comes over and they're like, you know, or in a meeting, they're like, hey, Sam had a really great idea. We should do this. Like, instead of like, hey, I had a really great idea, or what, you know, like, no, highlight Sam. Sam had the idea, right? Or, you know, we have a box and we give out Employee of the Month every month, but people put like, hey, saw Sam taking out the garbage after work, like didn't have to do that. Or, you know, I was carrying boxes in from UPS and Tristan helped me carry boxes. And then we read every single comment in there in our meeting, and we highlight, you know, all these things. So it breeds like people wanting to put those things in that box. Right. And it shows like we're a team here. You're never going to get somewhere here by like stepping on somebody. I'm going to be way more impressed if you're like, because a great leader will highlight the people on their teams that are doing great things. But yeah, no, but that's how you grow something like this. If you try to keep control over every single thing, you'll, you know, it'll be a governor on your
for sure
success. So
for sure.
Yeah, we have awesome people. You know, I get too much credit because I'm like the whatever guy that started at Face of the Brand, but like, yeah, half the shit in that building now, I don't even know how to do. Like, I can go make a knife, right?
Yeah.
But I think that is what's different about this knife company compared to any other big one is like the CEO of any other big knife company actually can't make a knife. Like most of them are owned by business guys, right?
That was something that I was impressed with you going through your facility. You know, you're the boss man. And you're on the floor. And nobody wants to see boss man on the floor ever. It doesn't matter. You know how it is. Like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
The suits are here. You knew I'm sure not in your mind, but from an outsider, you were just, we 3D printed this case and this is going to hold this. And then you're just pulling shit out of places. And you knew every single step, every single person, their position, what that person's supposed to be doing, how that machine is supposed to be running. I mean, you're looking and pulling numbers and, this one's doing, we're 340 into this and we're doing this many second. And that's where I was watching. I'm like, damn, this guy's not just sitting up here in his office, which you one of the most beautiful views from an office I've seen in a long time. But it just showed me that you were on the floor, and when they're probably installing this equipment, I'm sure you're standing right behind them like, what does this do? Show me this. This is how this filters, and we designed this because we thought this would work better. And that was really impressive for me because, like I said, I think early in the beginning of this, I've traveled, I've done a lot of, cool facilities and been able to tour some places, and just seeing how you were the owner of this, and you haven't been here for 20 years. Like that, you just opened this facility. You're still figuring shit out. Right. You don't even have your processes probably, and the streamlines. I mean, we talked to that one engineer, and he was talking about how he's trying to cut time off, and that's where I'm registering. I'm like, God, they don't even have this figured out yet, and you already know that's why I asked you at that one point how you figured if you hired somebody as far as just production and flow, because of how well you've already got it laid out in such a short amount of time. That was really impressive for me.
I appreciate it. I feel the opposite, where I wish I knew more about every process, right? Because there's experts in there, and I want to know more, but it is hard because you are up in the office a lot, and you are trying to drive the business forward and on the meetings and doing whatever. But I try. That's where I think I constantly feel like I fail, but and I hope so much of my last year was building that building, because I generaled that building. Like, I was the one that ran everything. Yeah. And so I missed a lot of things while I was up here with blueprints out and talking to HVAC guys and meeting about everything, right? And all the power in it and everything. And running up there nonstop, checking on progress and solving the problems. And so I'm looking very much forward to the next 12 months where I don't have that. That's a full-time job. For sure. Not to mention everything else we did out here in the last year. So I'm actually looking forward to getting more into some of those processes and understanding more, because I also feel like it's my job now to solve problems for our employees, right? Like, is it a hire that we need to make? Is it another piece of equipment or a different one or whatever, right? And so it's like every area of the business, how can I take the sand out of the gears? Yep. Right. That's my job. And if there's issues somewhere in the business, how do we solve those? Yep. Right. And so yeah, it's been cool, and it's it's a dream come true. And what I'm most proud of is when we drive back, as you're driving into Western Montana, this is the first big town you're going to get to is Missoula. And we'll be the first building that you'll see on the hill when you come into Missoula. And I think that represents, something local. There's that giant flag there. It's American manufacturing. And I hope that even the Missoula Valley people are proud of, it's not Walmart. Yeah. It's not some hotel. It's Montana Knife Company that's first. Welcome to our valley. That has planted its seeds here, and it has grown. And I was looking on that property of where we could build our facility, and I put it there for that reason. I actually parked on top of the hill on the other side, on this side, and just looked at that property, and it was I want it to be right there, because I don't want anybody to be able to build in our view, because what's next to us is a shotgun trap club. Okay. They're not building anything back there. No. So we won't have anything that will hinder our view or make us not be seen. And I'm very proud of from here to there to that. You should be, of man. what it means. And I hope that the valley is proud of it, because there's going to be a lot of sons and daughters working there, and tax revenue going into the school system. And it was actually a really big deal to me. That's the very edge of the Frenchtown school district. So our tax dollars are still going into this school where my kids went to school and got their education. And I looked at other properties that were a little bit more closer to Missoula, and it's just a weird little personal thing, but I love the idea that we're still in the Frenchtown school district. Yeah, Frenchtown fire, which those firefighters risked their lives on my house. And so it's neat to have that, and having that Black Rifle coffee shop in it, where I talked to Evan Hafer, who owns Black Rifle, in 2022 at Utah Tech, and we sat in his office. And to be fully honest, I've never said this publicly, but to be fully honest, I was trying to get him to build a building that we could then rent space in. Because my idea was how do we scale and grow this thing? And I could never afford to build a big commercial space. And so we talked about, and he wanted to bring a Black Rifle to Missoula. And he was let's find a spot. I'll build a huge building. you guys just rent, however much of it you need, and we'll have a black rifle there and it'll be awesome. I'm like, cool, let's do that. And I came home and like started developing the plan, and then, it became apparent, like, and I love those guys, but like they were also growing a massive brand and doing things. And I was like, became apparent 6-8 months later, like, I don't think they're going to do that. Right. Like kind of crickets. Yep. But him and I, then I'd seen me be like, when are we going to build our black rifle together? And it was like, let's do it, dude. And so
4 years
I
later.
always had this thought, though, it would be really, really neat to be able to come in and sit down and drink coffee and like look through the windows and see the knives being manufactured, see the faces, the people that you're supporting. And so when I went to build the building, I was like, do you want me to put can I put a black rifle in there? And he was like, yeah, dude, do whatever you want. And it was cool because he doesn't even know what it looks like. He's never seen it. He just said, do whatever. Like, you got our support. And he put me in touch with their team, and they helped with like behind the bar. Yeah. With the actual coffee stuff. But everything else, like, I'm looking forward at the grand opening. Like, it'll be the first time that any black rifle employee has seen it.
No shit.
Yeah, like, they have no idea what it all is.
I mean, because it's brand new.
Yeah.
And you guys, like, you haven't even had your grand
opening.
He
literally just licensed it and said, do whatever you want. Like, I trust you. And it was kind of a cool brand-to-brand thing of, like, you're going down the interstate and maybe you're a black rifle fan. That gets you off the interstate, and then we introduce our brand to you. Or maybe you're an MKC fan and you've never had their coffee, and it's like two American brands. Evan started that in his garage, right, and grew that big, huge brand. And he was just a Green Beret out of the military trying to figure out how to grow a coffee company. So I think it's two cool success stories, and we align, in a lot of the ways we feel about our country and veterans and just America. Yeah. Right. And so,
well, and speaking of America, one of the things that I think along with the long line of things that have impressed me from just meeting you and going through your facility is you always hear American made, right? And you got the origins that are doing the clothing, and you see the struggles and you hear it. And I've been around a bunch of industries, and that's why you always say, well, is it American made? Is it American made? And you're like, well, no, if it was, it would be this price versus this price. And that's a big excuse people use. But when you say you are American, you should just say Montana made. I'm sure it'll eventually move to that because you guys are building out the screws to the handles, to the material. You're cutting your water, grinding your handle material because of the fiberglass. It's just insane, the process of every single product or piece that makes that product is all being manufactured right here in Montana. And that's a huge flex, like and massive flex.
The hate online that we would get at times, because I'd see like, it's all hype and they don't even make anything. They just put parts together. And it's like, dude, when I'm in my garage, right? And it's like, well, you can't just build a factory like, hey, I'm going to go start a knife company and then I'm going to just do everything.
Yeah.
And it would frustrate me, and I would just like, that kind of shit would just piss me off and be like, I'm going to fucking show you, And so like now, it's like, now what do you think? Yes, we are making everything here, but like people sometimes like just like to hate on the internet.
Absolutely.
And like hate on what we're doing. It's like, do you not think 4 years ago when I was putting together parts and pieces in my garage that I didn't want to make everything here? But like you have to start somewhere. And I want to show that it's possible for a blue-collar freaking guy to start something in your garage and stair-step your way to something great. You don't have to go take all the conglomerate money or huge investment and give away your company. Yep. Like, we still own our company. We didn't go, like, I went and borrowed the money. And that's the thing, and I'm not saying it's that way for everybody. Like, sometimes it's smart to be like, this investor is going to back me, but he's going to own 40% of my business when he does it. I went to the bank and borrowed the money, and if it didn't work, we were going to be screwed. And so there's like a very big, like, put your money where your mouth is.
A lot of pressure.
Like, still a lot of pressure today. We move into that building, people are like, oh, congratulations, you made it. And it's like, yeah, I made it to a giant payment. My electric bill went from $2,000 a month here to $20,000 a month there in a week.
That's why I was kind of asking you certain questions, like how much nitrogen are you going through a month? And because that's not what people see when they do a drop and then your knives sell out in a few hours and they don't get it. And they're like, this is bullshit. They're just whatever. They're just trying to suck every penny. They don't, and not to mention the 100+ employees that you're paying.
111.
111. Yeah. See, you knew the exact number.
850,000 a month in payroll. Yeah. So like when you're
okay,
like a $300 knife, it's not like I'm like, do you think I would like to be more competitive? Like, would I like to make the same knife for $150 and still make money or whatever? But like, yeah, but when you see the numbers, it's like, we'll be lucky if by September we actually save $1 in the bank, right? Like everything right now is going into,
for sure.
You know, and like a lot of businesses in the excavation world, my parents would work until August before all their bills for the year were paid, and they might start to save some money until November and hopefully make it through winter for the next year.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you just can't, you know, I don't know. People see a huge brand and they think that we're just making millions and whatever. And it's like, yeah, I'm worth millions, I guess, for whatever that means. But that doesn't pay my payment next month. Like it's
$800,000 a month, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and we pay well. We also, our employees have paid vacation. They have 401. We match 401k.
Yeah, man, good for
and
you.
They have health insurance. So like, I'm treating them like I would want somebody to treat my daughter.
Absolutely,
you know?
absolutely. So, that's how you're going to have such a loyal, non-turnover rate. The last thing you want to be doing is teaching some kid for 4 or 5 months on how to work the CNC machine, and then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, fuck this place. Like, everybody here sucks.
Right.
And then you just have this turnover. Instead, you want guys that are going to take the initiative. Hey, boss, how do I learn this? How can I step up my position here? Because they have that pride inside of them. And that's why I like talking and having these conversations, because I think that we've lost so much track of how to just business, because we look at social media and I'm looking at kids her freaking age driving Lambos, and it's all about the image and the flair, but nobody sees like, oh yeah, that dude's built a $50 million company I'm just taking a wild guess. I'm not saying that's your value, but $50 million company in 5 years, 6 years, and teamed up with Black Rifle, teamed up with all these guys. You said Mike Rowe, you know, things, you're doing stuff with him. That's where it comes back to almost the initial conversation of the must be nice.
Yeah.
And this is why I wanted to have this conversation, because I saw that video of you standing in your yard going, these are 4 of my employees sitting on my porch at my house. There's my garage where I started. There's the shop that I eventually we just built and immediately grew out of. It is nice.
Yeah.
It is fucking nice, because this is where I blew my house up to now where I just got a $20 million loan to build a new facility. It's employing 111 people here in the Valley.
Yep.
So yeah, it is pretty nice. And but that's where people.
And it's pretty fucking stressful. But I'm not complaining. I tell people,
man, it's the life.
Every problem I have is a problem I dreamed of having. Like I wanted. Like I don't have any actual problems. I have a really good friend with cancer that's in the final stages. He has problems. Mm-hmm. I don't have any problems. Mm-hmm. Like worst case scenario, if I can't pay my payment and I go bankrupt, I'll go be a lineman again. Mm-hmm. And actually that was a really fun career. So like I'll be all right.
It's the saying, what is it? What a privilege to be so stressed out over the problems you used to pray for.
Yep.
Along those lines.
Yep.
And then when you really take a step back, you're like for us, obviously we are nowhere near the level of what you're doing. But for us, it's like, you know, we're trying to get our margins down over ingredients, and we're trying to find a cheese dealer. I got a cheese plug that I never thought I would ever have in my life, where I'm meeting an Albertsons rep behind the Albertsons and getting blocks of cheese and shit.
Yeah.
But it's just those little things that are funny. And you're like, we're running out of this. But you used to dream of those problems. And then, you know, so it is such, that's where you got to take a step back and be like, man, I got an $800,000 payroll a month. Like, what an incredible problem to have, to be able to just provide that to this valley, and to see that giant ass Garrison flag flying. And I'm sure every day when you drive by, that has to put a smile on your face.
Oh, that's the best. I mean, the amount of people that compliment us on that and just be like, thank you for putting that up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I wish more people put up flags. I wish they were everywhere. Mm-hmm. But this town's known to be a little bit liberal. Quite liberal, and I love the first business you see when you pull in is Montana Knife Company, Black Rifle Coffee, and a giant ass flag.
Yep. That's American shit.
That's American. Right
that is
there.
Montana.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I feel like that's a perfect way to wrap that up. I really enjoy this time, and even though we have never spoken a word before, until this, and they were like, "Hey, man, we got an opportunity. You want to come have a conversation?" And I love entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurship, especially guys that just make it happen, man. It's such an incredible world, and I don't do a lot of entrepreneurs. Well, a lot of people do have their own businesses that come on the show, but I am so big into entrepreneurship just because of what we've been able to show our kids, what we've been able to change our lives, and not in a wealth aspect at all, just being free.
Yeah. And
being able to, you know what, let's run up to the mountains. Hey, you know what? We're going to drive to Yellowstone tomorrow. It's the middle of the week. There's nobody there. Let's go. That to me is freedom, which you can only have by being your own boss and starting your own business. And that's why I encourage everybody that comes along my path. They're like, what do you think? Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. You never know. You never know where it's going to take you.
It's actually what makes Americans different. We were just talking about this about AI, like incorporating AI into our business, right? And we're looking at this stuff, and it's what's different between, like, I was reading a thing about Europeans and Americans. Europeans will sit and study it and think about it and be hesitant and maybe poke holes in it, and Americans tend to just step off into it and like, well, I'm going to download Claude on my phone and start figuring it out, right? And it's just a real, like, you just have to step off and go do it. And at the end of the day, if you fail, who cares? Like, it just, you know,
that's part
you
of
learn
it.
something. And what you are demonstrating, like, who knows what path that you're paving for your kids and what you're showing. And parenting is like, it's the number one most important job in our country. I think it's the biggest piece that's missing in our country is like really, really good parenting. I'm very proud. Like, I'm proud of what we've done with MKC, but I'm way more proud of the kids we've raised.
Absolutely.
We have really great kids.
It's your legacy.
They're motivated. They're doing their thing. I actually love, like, people ask me, like, do I wish my kids worked in my company? It'd be cool if my kids wanted to be learning everything we're doing and working in my company, but I'm also very proud. My kids see this and could be like, oh, I'll go work for dad, and eventually I'll make bunch of money and I can just be the boss MKC and like kind of hit a little bit the easy button. At least that's how I think kids could perceive it. But no, my daughter wants to go off to college on a college basketball scholarship.
Good for her.
And be a vet, right? A veterinarian. And my other daughter's been taking online classes, and at the same time she got an emergency teaching position, and she's in college and a third grade teacher, full-time teacher, you know, not chasing the money, obviously, but chasing her passion and what she wants to be. Like, she could come work for us and make twice as much money.
Yep.
But she wants to be a school teacher, which we need great teachers like her. So it's, you know, neat to see our kids, you know, yes, it would be neat if one of my kids wants to work with us and take it over someday, but if the example we provide is just the work ethic to go chase their own dreams and accomplish their own dreams and whatever that looks like, I'm happy.
That's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
And it's hard because, you know, with the image and work ethic, and that's what I really try to instill in my kids. I'm like, listen, I know this isn't your dream. I know she did not come to me one day and be like, Dad, let's start a podcast.
Right.
She didn't even know what the fuck a podcast was. When I walked in that room, I was like, hey, figure it out. Like, I don't know shit. I mean, we don't know anything about lighting and sound and just all that bullshit, but it was just like, hey, learn it. But it was that pressure.
Right.
And I tell her and I tell the little one, I'm like, girls, listen, I know when we're at a farmer's market and you got all these old blue hairs, it's not a sour or San Francisco. I grew up in San Francisco. Okay, you know, like those. Yeah. But it's just teaching that work ethic. And I tell them, listen, I know this isn't your dream job.
Right.
I know you're not going to be rolling bread your whole entire life. But just learn the work ethic now, learn the customer service, learn money, learn marketing, learn everything that you can so that one day when you were like, hey, Dad, I got in our little one. I mean, dude, it's like every other month. She's like, I want to start a business. We're like, let's go. And just like your mom did, she's like, I want to learn to tie flies, whatever you. And so it's just encouraging him at this moment because I want my kids' minds thinking, hey, Dad, what do you think about this? Instead of, well, I'm just going to sit here and do this math problem and I'm getting bullied at school and all the girls are talking shit and doing all this crap that just comes along with the distractions. But instead she's like, hey, Dad, I want to start this like Christian lifestyle brand.
Do it.
100%.
Yeah.
What do we need? So like our little one, she's getting, that's why when you were showing us all those 3D printers. So right now she's literally, she's 11 years old and she's been doing all the research and we're like, okay, cool. And we sat her down, we're like, listen, because she came to us, this is an 11-year-old. She goes, Dad, can you just hear me out? I'm like, what's up? She goes, what would you think about giving me a loan for my business? I'm like, oh my God. Like that's how I want her mind thinking.
Right.
And so she comes to us, we're like, okay, you want to get into this 3D printing? You want to make this fun? Mm-hmm. This is what you're going to do. Because we watch a lot of Shark Tank. You're going to put together a pitch,
right?
And you're going to pitch. I want numbers. I want what 3D printers you want, what you're going to be making from these. I want to know what the market's selling them for. And she's been working on this. She's like chipping away. And I'm like, okay, if you're serious about this, this is what it's going to take. And she's like, are you going to film it? We're like, we're going to film it for us,
Right.
But the fact, if you want, how bad do you want this?
Right.
And then if she's figuring this out now, and I tell them, like, if you girls have 25% of work ethic in you,
right,
you're going to be years ahead of your demographic and your peers because no one's teaching this. I mean, these kids have watched what you have accomplished.
And being able to communicate, like work ethic and like the way that your daughter, can just talk to an adult she's never met before and other people. Like communication is probably more like I'd rather have a C student than an A student that can really communicate and talk to anybody and BS and be professional and adapt to, like you say, the annoying old lady at the booth or the coolest old guy, whatever, right? Like, that communication is, I think, more important than almost anything.
It opens so many doors, we have these conversations all the time. I mean, I've had guys come over and kind of help, and they'll work with her. And these are guys like they have their own marketing companies, and they'll be like, "Hey, man, like, is she gonna stick around here forever?" I'm like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Well, I got a hard time finding people that can do what she does.
Right.
Like, I'm hiring professionals in the industry that can't problem solve.
Right.
They can't even come in. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. This is my kid. Like, nobody's poaching my own kid. But
yeah, and when you have a daughter who's smart, understands business, has been around business and done all that stuff, can communicate, is beautiful. It's like you got the whole package, and it's like whatever she wants to do someday, like
do it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna support it.
Yeah, she'll be successful. Yeah, it's it's one of the biggest things. Like we always made our kids, like when people came over, like sit at the dinner table and just be a part of the conversation and just talk. And now to this day, my last two are sophomore, junior in high school. But like when people, like if you guys came over for dinner, they would just hang out and just listen and talk. And they wouldn't just go sit and look at their phones in the living room.
It's this is going to go in a whole other place, but I'm cool with talking about it because I'm a very passionate dad. We're the same way. Like I refuse to have a teenager walk in my door. Here's me. How was your day?
Right.
Good. And straight to their room. Like,
right.
You brought a child into this world. That's your legacy that you're passing on. That's your relationship with it. And that's all I get all these days. I mean, how do you do it? And just be there, intentional, and teach your kids everything you know. And that's where, when we pulled our kids out of school, right, in COVID, it was like, what are we getting? My wife had a booming real estate career, and she's like, I'm walked from it all and made that decision because we want to be able to put a product out into the world one day that's representing us.
Right.
They're going to have their own last name that'll change one day, but that's when they start their legacy. But till then, it's like, I want to continue this. Like, I want kids. I want to be in my home and enjoy it.
Right.
I have buddies they have counters. I worked with a guy that had a counter on his computer, and every day he would log in and this was literally him. Type in, log in, he'd go, I'd be like, what's up? He'd be like, he'd wrist off the day. He had days till his youngest son turned 18. He had a countdown because he's like, last motherfucker out of my house. And I'm done with him.
Gosh.
And I'm sitting here like, what? And
my daughter called the other day from college. She came back last summer, lived with us, and worked for a vet here during the summer. But then she called the other day, and we were looking forward to her coming back for this summer. And she called, and she's like, well, it'll change the plan. She's like, I'm going to stay here this summer, and I'm going to work for a different vet just to get different experience. And then I'm going to volunteer time at a mixed animal clinic because that'll be good for my resume. And then I also want to be able to work out with my team this summer. And I was like, well, first of all, I'm bummed because
I want you home.
Yep. And I'm just being selfish at this moment.
For sure.
But also, like, that's awesome.
Okay.
Congratulations.
You're a few years ahead of me on the daughter leaving. I'm going to be a train wreck.
Yeah.
How was that dropping your daughter off? How far is she from here?
Well, my first daughter went down to Dillon, which is about 3 hours.
Okay.
And then Sadie's 2 hours from here.
Okay. How is that?
Yeah, it's really, really strange, but also like a real sense of pride and honestly, like a comfort of like, I know I raised a capable daughter.
Okay.
So it's
that
like
helps a lot.
Very proud of the fact that they did leave home and they did go chase their dream. And, yeah, it was especially strange, I guess, with the first one of just like, man, there's like something missing at the dinner table and something missing in your house. But, and then Sadie, I mean, she from college, like she calls me about every 3 or 4 days for no reason. Half the time she's in the shower and she just has her phone on speakerphone. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm showering. You know, we just
thinking of you though.
Talk about like her day or whatever. And, you know, she called a couple weeks ago and was like, I'm thinking about living with these 5 other girls and renting this house. And I was like, man, we kind of talked through and I was like, I don't know, but it's up to you. But we talked about and I'm like, you really want to start, because she could live on campus in an apartment with a couple other girls. And I'm like, you really want to start your car every day in the winter and drive to school and back and forth? And we talked about, I'm like, I know it sounds fun with all your friends, but also like 6 girls in one house and 3 bathrooms. Like,
trauma.
Think about this for a minute.
That's a reality show.
She calls me about 3 days ago and she was like, you know, I thought about it and you're right. And she's like, me and Chloe are going to live in the apartments on campus. And there's just going to be 3 of us in this apartment. And I was like, that's probably a good idea. She's like, I can walk to class. I don't have to start my car. And like, she's like, there's not 6 of us. And I was like, sounds good.
That's where, as a dad, those moments where you're like, oh, thank God she listened.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's not like it's horrible going the other direction, but you're like, listen, from experience, this is so much. And you don't want your daughter traveling in the wintertime. And
it's just
you're trying to eliminate all of those variables that can, you know, and I do that with her. I'm like, hey, sure you want to be out there? Like, what if you left at this time? And then so I'm with you, but it's just, and then they make that decision. Hey, I actually
once
didn't end up
they're
going.
19, they actually like think about it for 1 extra week. And then they're like, you're probably right, Dad. Where at 15, they're just like, no, it's going to be fine. And it's like, okay. But, no, it's awesome watching your kids go off and succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you put so much into them, when you're just like an intentional parent. Yeah. And it doesn't, nowadays it seems so hard to be that parent because there's so many distractions and everything. But if you just put in such the minute amount of just being intentional with your kids, showing them little things. Hey, buddy, why don't you come out and I'm going to show you this? Or what are you doing here? Why do you think it should work like that? Explain to me why you're doing this. Why this over this? Right. And then as they start to develop, you start to see their minds. Hey, Dad, I got this set up here, but I think this might work better. And you're like, okay, that's where one day when they leave the house, you can just sit back, which I don't think you'll ever be at rest. But I want my kids to walk out one day and I can be like,
yep.
You got it, kid. I did my best and I can truly feel okay. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna fuck up big time on dating, life, whatever it is, but I'm always here for you. But you got as many tools in that tool bag that I can put in there before you left this house. And that's my goal. I just want them to walk out one day and be like, oh, thank God. Okay.
Yeah. I think
that's
where I'm at. I was way more comfortable with it of just like, nah, she's prepared. Like,
I love it.
Capable kid that can change her own tire. You know, she's good.
Cool, brother.
All right.
I really appreciate this.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, this was a great conversation. Get to know you and just a little bit of a different approach. I know you probably talk knives and metals and all that shit, and I just wanted to get to know who you are. I think you've done a really incredible thing here, and I want to thank you for providing Americans with American jobs, because it seems to be such a crazy thing, and outsource overseas, and here you are developing everything from your handles to the screws to the rivets and everything else that go into those blades. And there's not a lot of people doing what you're doing and have been able to do what you've done on this scale of accomplishment. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thanks
absolutely.
a lot.
Thank you.
Right.